Well, thanks for joining us, Senator Daines. A couple of matters that I want to talk with you about this afternoon, starting with the other Steve's announcement today that he is going to challenge you in November. I want to ask you, first of all, was that a surprise at all, or have you been expecting this all along?
Well, we thought he'd probably enter the race, but I'll tell you what, this is the most consequential election in my lifetime. We're going to decide the next president of the United States. We'll decide who leads the United States Senate, and thereby the future of the United States Supreme Court. This is a big deal for Montana. It's a big deal for our country. And I've always been consistent fighting for more jobs and less government and defending our Montana way of life. That's what this election will be about.
Kind of interesting. Governor Bullock is also touting his job creation as well. Can you talk a little bit about how you differ from him when it comes to that approach, your approach toward creating jobs?
Well, we have very different backgrounds. I spent 28 years in the private sector, somebody who actually created jobs. Got to see that happen right in my hometown of Bozeman. It's all about lowering taxes, less regulation, creating an environment where our job creators can thrive and keep these wages going up. Our big challenge in Montana is wages. We need better and higher paying jobs. And I got to see that firsthand when I worked creating those jobs back home in Montana, back home in Bozeman.
What do you think the other big issues are going to be in this race?
Well, there'll be a very clear contrast between the positions that I have and the governor have, and we saw that when he ran for president, on the issues of the Second Amendment, on the issues of immigration, on impeachment. The governor wanted the president impeached and removed from office. There's some major issues going forward here. The future of our courts will be a big issue because the United States Senate uniquely has the up or down vote on Supreme Court justice. I voted for Justice Gorsuch, for Justice Kavanaugh. The governor would have voted against both of them because he's following Chuck Schumer's lead.
Obviously, this race is going to get a lot of attention. It already is. There's going to be a lot of money thrown at it from both sides. Does Governor Bullock's announcement change your strategy at all, having him as your opponent?
It really doesn't. We always knew we'd have a contrast kind of race. The governor getting the race clearly presents that for the people of Montana. We'll have two very different views for the future of this country. The one thing that's very different is I've demonstrated my voting record back in Washington, D.C. Montanans can trust me on these very important issues I described: more jobs, less government, and defending our Montana way of life.
You have stood behind President Trump time and time again. Will he be here to help you campaign?
I spoke with the president last week. He can't wait to get back to Montana. He loves our state. He stands with me. I stand with him in 2020. I look forward to a visit or maybe a couple from the President of the United States. But let's think about this for a moment. Most Montanans do not find Chuck Schumer and Barack Obama very persuasive. Governor Bullock did. Chuck Schumer came to Montana 2 weeks ago and talked him into the race. I can tell you what, I don't take Chuck Schumer's advice. Our governor did.
All right, I want to talk to you about a couple other issues as well, starting with today being the worst point drop ever for the Dow Jones Industrial, the energy sector just getting hammered. That's big here in Montana. How concerned are you right now about what has been happening there?
Well, I watched that closely. In fact, I saw that coming overnight. That's a fight right now between Saudi Arabia and Russia. The Saudis are putting a lot of pressure right now on the Russians of getting involved with OPEC. So that's what's driving this downward pressure in oil prices. It concerns me in that Montana and much of our economy here depends on these good, high-paying natural resource jobs. But I think this too shall pass over time. But it's been very volatile, very concerning. I'm keeping a very close eye on it.
The other big story is the coronavirus. The president has accused the news media, also the Democratic Party, of inflaming that situation. Do you agree with him?
Well, I'll tell you what, this is not the time to politicize what's going on with fighting the coronavirus. It was part of a very strong bipartisan effort last week. We passed an over $8 billion appropriation, a spending package here to focus on containment and prevention on the coronavirus, as well as expediting a vaccine. That's where the focus is. I'm confident in the Trump administration. I'm confident in the Vice President. President Trump asked Mike Pence to take lead on this. They're focused on this literally 24/7. I know there's a lot of concern from the American people, from Montanans, but I'm confident we've got the right resources focused at. We've got to get this plan now deployed as quickly as possible.
I was going to ask you, what else do you think we need to be doing right now? Are we prepared enough?
Well, I'll tell you, it goes back to some basic advice that our folks taught us growing up, and very important to wash our hands, very important to ensure that you're taking precautions. If you have a fever, you got a runny nose, you should stay home. That's back to this issue of containment and prevention. We also got to move quickly now in getting this vaccine. This is not the first time we've seen a pandemic like this. We saw SARS back in 2002. We saw MERS in 2012-13. Now we have the coronavirus coming out of Wuhan. But I'm confident the President and his team here, they've got the right resources focused on that to bring this under control.
Senator Daines, before I let you go, anything else you want to say about these issues I just asked you about?
No, that's fine.
All right, Senator Steve Daines, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.